Welcome back to the Running with Landon Miller podcast. I am your host, Landon Miller, here on episode number 2 of the podcast titled Journey. I just wanted to really talk about Journey, just kind of bring it up because it's something I've been reflecting on and thinking about lately, and something that I think is important for everyone to reflect on, especially in this time of quarantine and isolation, and just kind of a lot of people I feel like are trying to figure out what the next step is. How do you go forward from here? And I believe kind of reflecting on your journey from where you've come is a good way to look to how you can grow to go forward. So I'm going to start off with a couple Bible verses that I think illustrate journey well. First off is Psalm 23:4. It's even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And then Jeremiah 29:11 says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Key words there are give you a hope and a future. Right now, especially, I think it's really tough just because it feels like there is no hope or future right now. We're just kind of stuck in this rut. And the Lord promises that He has a hope and a future for us, and that He's going to take us through this darkest valley right now. He's going to guide us, and He's going to comfort us through this valley. And I just really think that's cool because seeing those and then reflecting on where I've come from really, to me, just like has given me this like new energy to go forward from here, to continue training, to keep working hard. I'm going to give a little backstory on my journey of what I've come from in order to be where I'm at today. It's really cool I think I'd encourage you to do this too. Like, just look back on your life and see how your path has been woven together to get you where you are today. Because if you really like take the time to look back and see what you came from to where you are today, like there's no way that you can't see how God has worked through that. Like, you can't be like, oh yeah, that was me getting me to where I'm at today. No, that's not how it works. It's so clearly God's hand just guiding and pushing you to where He wants you to be because He knows that's what's best for you. So to start off, for me, my journey kind of unknowingly started for me in first grade because I fell off a playground set, smashed my head on like some ladder thing, and had a really bad concussion. And at that point, like, I went to the hospital, they CAT scanned or whatever my brain, and they're like, yeah, he had a concussion. That was it. And so kind of just lived my life, grew up, until I was in fourth grade. I ended up going to the eye doctor, and they like do this little thing where they look in the back of your eye. And my eye doctor told me that I'm not sure if I'm getting the actual part correct, but he said there's something torn in the back of my eye. I think it's called the retina, and I think it's the retina. But he said it's in both my eyes. It's partially torn, and the problem with this is it still works because even though it's partially torn, but because it's already torn a little bit, very significant head trauma could cause me it to tear all the way. And if that were to happen, I would go blind. So he was like, right off the gate, he's like, yeah, don't be playing contact sports like football where you see head trauma being very prevalent. So at that point in my life, that kind of crushed me a little bit because, I don't know, I had these little kid dreams of being the star quarterback or wide receiver or whatever. And I really liked football. I hadn't actually gotten to play football at that point, but I really was hoping to play football in high school. But so that happened, and I was a little disappointed about that, a little beat down over that. But this is where it was kind of cool. Like, God just put a blessing into my life and put a new direction in my life. So that was the summer between my fourth and fifth grade year. My fifth grade year was my brother's eighth grade year, and he was actually on the cross country team. He had been on the cross country team the previous year and was like an average middle of the pack type of runner, nothing special. But his eighth grade year, he had done all the summer running and put in the work. And the very first race, I remember it clear as day, he comes out of the woods with like 400 meters to go, and he's in second place, and he was kicking down this dude. Last 100 meters, flew by him and won the race. And to me, as a fifth grader, I was like, wow, dude, like this running thing, this is pretty cool. Like to see my brother succeed. And obviously, I'm competitive. I was like, all right, now I gotta step up my game. I gotta beat my older brother. But like just to see him do that, like really inspired me to want to run at that point. So the next year came out, and I ran cross country in sixth grade, and I've been running ever since. So that's kind of like how my journey got kickstarted. There's so many more stories along the way of coaches I've had. My high school career, I think I had 4, 5, 6 different coaches, and even though that was like tough, and I wasn't able to probably reach my potential in high school because of just different things that went on with having all these different coaches, like that isn't totally conducive to being able to reach your best because different plans, all that. But having those 6 different coaches taught me so much and kind of helped me. Now I can look back on things that happened there, and I can learn from them, good and bad. I can learn from them, which will help me in my career as I want to be a coach of cross country and track and field going forward, which is also another cool story in itself relating to journey, because I came into college as a freshman. I was going to double major in sports management and media communications. Went through that first year of being a double major because I wanted to be a sports announcer on ESPN, whatever. Just I wanted to do something with sports, like be a sports announcer. That was like kind of like my goal, my reasoning for doing those 2 majors. But after my freshman year track, which in all honesty was pretty disappointing, I probably, out of all the races I ran, I had 2 good races, 1 indoor race and 1 outdoor race that I would consider good races. And I remember coming back home, and I worked in a factory that summer, and this was in like my off period. So every day I'd work in the factory from 5 in the morning till 2, and then I'd come home and I'd sit outside and I'd read, and because I've always enjoyed reading. But I read these 2 books, and these 2 books probably changed. I believe they actually weren't Christian books, but I believe God put them in my life for me to read to alter the course of my career path choice in order to put me on the path of being a cross country coach and track and field coach, and just realize that passion I had for running. The books were Natural Born Heroes by Christopher McDougall, and in that he quoted and talked about a book called The Cool Impossible by Eric Orton, which I then read. And those 2 books together really made me realize how much of a passion I had for running, just because how much like I was like so intrigued by the books, and like I tore through them, and I learned so much from them, and I wanted to implement everything that I learned in them into my life. Like The Cool Impossible by Eric Orton was all about making your form more efficient, and that summer, because of that book, inspired me to pretty much completely overhaul my form, which I don't recommend. You have to do it the right way, which the book does spell out the right way to change your form. That is The Cool Impossible by Eric Orton, if you're interested. So I overhauled my form, and like I just at some point, like halfway through the summer, I realized, like I kind of just sat back and realized, I was like, wow, like I really have this passion for running that I didn't realize. And I wasn't enjoying my media communication classes, so I was like, you know what, like I think I want to be a cross country coach. Like I really felt like I had this passion, desire, something I prayed about, and it was just like I just felt like that. For me, sometimes I don't like hear God speak, but it's just like a feeling in my heart. It's like, and my thoughts always come back to it. It's like, yeah, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. So I dropped media communications as a major and added coaching as a minor, and so I could move forward in hopefully becoming a coach. So yeah, that's kind of like my journey arc of where I've come to today, and just being able to reflect on that this week has really kind of just hyped me up because I know like there's been so many times I've had tough seasons, like my freshman track season. I had a tough season then. Um, there's been other tough seasons, but there's also been highs, and I just know that through it all, like you just continue to grow. You learn and you grow in every single season, and like it's like back to the Jeremiah 29:11, like plans to give you a hope and a future. Um, you no matter where you're at right now, like God already has plans for your future. So like you just once you realize that, like that gives you that hope, and you can look forward to whatever is coming next, even in this time where it's hard to see past the next day because it just everything's shut down. It's just such a weird situation. You just got to remember that there is a future. There's a reason we're in this situation right now, and partially part of what I think is like this is a season of absolute growth. Like across the country, it's cool to see like everyone's kind of coming together. Like you're not hearing as much about these like fights between political parties. It's more of everyone's like, all right, let's get together and figure this crap out. And I think also I've just noticed this personally, like it's an unprecedented time for growth because we're literally quarantined. And I read this book on spiritual disciplines, and one of the spiritual disciplines like that's like most essential to growth is isolating yourself and being able to study and spend time with God. And I think there's even though like people like me being I'm an extrovert, so it's like hard to be by yourself, but it's also a time when you're by yourself and you keep grinding, you're gonna experience growth. And I've talked to other athletes that I compete against and some coaches that I know from around the conference, and like they all kind of agree that this is like an unprecedented time of growth, especially for runners, because like usually in a single season you have to be training, doing specific things in order to peak for a 5K or a 1500 at the end of the season. And so by doing that, that means you up your training and then you have to go down and kind of peak, and you're going to have to at some point really beat down your body to get the training you want, so then when you freshen up you can run so much better. But in this time it's really just we have this unprecedented time to build a massive base of strength. Like like I've noticed even my coach, he's like subscribing these tempo runs for us. Like today I had a split tempo of 4 and 2. I know one of my teammates had an 8-mile tempo. Like these are tempos we haven't done because like usually we like at this point I need to do some track work for my specific event in order to help me peak for that event in the next coming months. But instead right now we can just build strength, build this base that's going to benefit us for the rest of our lives, because kind of how this is getting a little more into training philosophy, which if you're interested listen. But you like as you go along every single year you build this base, and then you peak at the end of the year and get like this super good training time, or you get up to a certain point when you peak, and then you kind of all right, I need to use my words better because a lot of you will be listening on Spotify and not watching me. But all right, so imagine you have a baseline. Just for numerical value, we're going to call it 10. Your base is 10, and then throughout the season you peak up to a 15. But the point of the accumulative training is so you peak, you take your downtime, but when you come back down the mountain, your base is now like a 12. So then the next season when you build up again and peak, you'll peak at like a 16 or 17, and then you come back down the mountain again and your base is now like a 13. So over time you're continually building and building and building this base with the continual peaks and then downfalls of taking time off. But now with this season right here where we don't have to peak, we can just stay in this strength base mode and keep building, expanding our base, making it bigger, getting that numerical value higher, if you will. And it's going to benefit us for next cross country season, the track season after that, the cross country season after that, and we'll continue. Like, I honestly believe we're going to see a boom in American distance running that has been unprecedented. I believe, so now the Olympics are postponed to 2021. I think we're going to see some of the best USA performances at that 2021 Olympics. And the 2021 Olympic trials, like, I want to be there because that's going to be something special, because all of these elite athletes that were going to peak this year, now they get to build strength and delay their peak another year. So not delay their peak, they just get to sit down and build strength and build this massive base, so when they come back next year for their cycle, they'll be able to peak even higher. And it's going to be this unprecedented period of growth that honestly I think is going to lead to a boom of USA runners just absolutely tearing up the distance stage at the world stage. And for me, that's got me excited, because like, even though it's going to be tough to not have track races to watch this summer, because yeah, call me a nerd, but literally I get hyped when the Sunset Tour in the middle of June is on FlowTrack. You best believe your boy is buying a FlowTrack subscription to watch that race. I'm going to sit down. I want to watch that 5K. I want to watch that 10K. I want to watch that steeple. But this year we're not going to have that. It's going to be tough. But I think 2021 we're going to see a lot of American records fall. We're going to see world records fall, just because all these elite athletes across the globe are getting the chance to build base and be able to get closer to their potential than they ever have before. And the same goes for just your normal everyday NAI college runners like you and me. We have this chance to sit down, build base, build our strength, so when next cross season comes around, we're going to be in better shape and better prepared to reach our talent ceiling than we ever have before. And for me, that's just an exciting prospect, to be able to know that my dream has always been, like, that's my dream, is to find the ceiling of my talent in running. Coach Foss said it best, like, our purpose as runners is to find the extent of the talent that God's given us, because God's given us this talent to run. Our job is to find where that ceiling is, because at some point this is a little depressing. You're going to hit a ceiling, and that's going to be the ceiling of your talent. But it's not very often that you're able to find that. Like, that's kind of like a goal that you have to chase, like chasing the end of a rainbow. Like, it's not something that always happens. Like, so many things have to go right for it to happen. But this block of training, these 2 months where we don't have a season, is something that is going to be so beneficial in order to help build that base, so we can hopefully find that talent ceiling. And for me, that's just excited. That's really excited me and driven me to continue working hard. So yeah, I guess my challenge today is really to reflect in your life, in your running journey. Just see where you started out, how you've grown along the way, and how this time right now is going to help you to grow even more in the future. And really just focus on, really focus on growing in this time, because being by yourself, you're going to grow physically, you're going to grow mentally, because it's a freaking grind to do workouts by yourself, and you're going to grow spiritually, because when you take away distractions, that's where God is, because God's in the stillness. He's in the stillness and the noise, but like, when you hear God is when you're still. And I just think I'm really excited for this. It's weird because I'm extroverted and I want to be with people, but I'm also excited for this season right now, to be able to grow and just to be able to see what comes in the fall when we have this massive strength base. I just think some great things are going to happen, and that has me excited for the future. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm sure it was like 20 minutes long, so I mean, you probably didn't have anything better to do because I didn't have anything better to do than to sit down and talk for 20 minutes. But, if you really enjoyed this, share this with someone you know. Maybe it can help inspire them to, I guess, continue training or to continue to grow through this time of isolation and quarantine. But yeah, thank you for listening. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. And, thanks for listening.